Now, let me ask you guys real quick. Can you trade while working a 9 to 5? If you're still asking yourself that exact question, then this is the video for you. Here's a perfect example. Here's a trade that, I recently had. It was $1,103. Let's sit there and do the math for a second. If you really think about it, 2 trades a week is 8 trades a month, right? And if you have 8 trades in a month, 70% success rate, that is 5 wins. So if you really think about it, if each trade leverages 1,000 a month, in that case that I showed you guys at the beginning of this video, then here's a planner on how you can break that down. And what am I trying to get to here? We're basically trying to plan everything out, because it's useless to try to trade and do everything, if you're going to go the prop firm route or if you're going to go with your own personal funding and you don't have a plan. All we're doing is setting up a plan that makes sense, simple, right? We're going to go a little bit more in depth on the budget and whatnot, but the main goal here is to figure out what income is needed for you to aim for on, your prop firm or your own personal funding, whichever it may be, right? To get out of that 9 to 5. And obviously be conservative. Don't aim, immediately for 6 figures, because that's not going to happen right off the back. But let's go ahead and hop into my strategy. So right here, we have a break of structure. We're on the 4-hour time frame, right? So kind of like the planner, I feel trading gets very, very difficult if you don't have a plan. So my strategy is literally step by step. In my personal opinion, I know sometimes a lot of things, that people you'll see on YouTube and in courses, sometimes you may not understand it 100%. But I feel like personally, my strategy is so simple that majority of the audience that does watch this can follow it. So what am I doing here? I'm basically looking for the most basic of basic order flow, right? I already identified that the market is breaking structure to the upside, right? It's telling me that it's going to be bullish. So in this case, I'm just trying to look for some order flow, right? And now, as simple as that may sound, it literally goes right back to the budget. You're trying to figure out, what do you need, right, to escape that 9 to 5? What is the minimum income, and what income can you aim for that makes sense for you to drop that, maybe start another business? The whole point of me pulling out this planner is, at least I'm a type of person that I work well when I have numbers in front of me, and I work it out with the numbers and it makes sense to me. I'm a type of person that is like that, So in this case, what am I trying to do here? Very simple. I'm just trying to highlight, because this is literally what I did back when I was going to school. I was playing a sport and I had a job and I was trading all at the same time. Yeah, different worlds, different environments. I 100% get that, but it is possible. So when you're going to make a strategy, obviously you got to do that 9 to 5. That's what's handling your expenses, right? So I just wanted to highlight like different expenses that, I had for a pretty long time. These were kind of rounded off what my expenses kind of looked like, on a monthly basis, right? That's what I was looking like when I was just getting out of college, and whatnot. But that's just, a lot of people expenses are probably around that, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, like I said, different environments. But one thing you do have in common is that 9 to 5 at the very moment is taking care of your expenses. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where, I have had actually a student, his name is Chris. He does not mind me, putting him out there like that just because of where he's at now. And he's been my student and he checks in with me, probably once every 2 months just to see how I'm doing, see how he's doing. But he literally was in a spot where he quit his 9 to 5 to pursue trading. That's not necessarily the best thing to do. I'm going to put that out there. It's true. That was a mistake. But how you look at it is, if you 100% drop your 9 to 5 and go to trading, all you're doing is, I'm not saying it's not going to work out, because there is a small percentage that will make it. But if you put yourself in that unnecessary stress where now it's like, oh, I'm around, I'm in a situation that, man, I'm in the corner. If this don't work out, I'm screwed. You don't want to put yourself in a situation like that when it comes to trading, especially when trading, it's a lot of psychology, a lot of mental stress. I can't highlight that enough. It's a lot of mental stress. You don't want that unnecessary stress on you. Yeah, they say stress will definitely push you to grow. That is 100% true. But when you're making financial decisions, in this case, trading, that literally you can sit there and see something right then and there with your strategy, but then you'll leave and come back 15 minutes later. And if you see something different, that should tell you right there, like, oh man, I need to pay more attention to what I'm doing, Well, let's go ahead and, go in depth on this strategy, right? So we found that order flow that I've been looking for, right? That's the main thing. Obviously, I want to at least see 2 points where, demand is being respected or supply is being respected. And in this case, it's demand. That's what we're looking for. So since it broke structure on a higher time frame, we're looking for obviously long positions, right? So let me just go ahead and delete that real quick. So once identifying this, right, I'm on the lower time frame, obviously, right? And now I'm going to hop into the 1 minute. Now I'm looking for my entry. It's very, very simple. The most basic, in my opinion, right? Taps into, that mid time frame demand, right? I'm basically looking for structure to go ahead and form what's called a transaction, or some people call it a chalk. So many different terminologies. Don't get lost in that terminology. My strategy did not change. I would say my strategy slowly got more and more refined and simple. So basically, what just happened here? It broke structure to the downside, right? Repeatedly, leading into that mid time frame demand. Then it also created that supply. It reacted to it, blew to the upside, right? That reaction right there is golden. For me, I look at that as like, that's a perfect opportunity, right? That's a transaction supply, right, to form. Then a demand formed, and not even to mention, we have a fair value gap that's literally sitting right above that demand, right? So if you see that little section right there, that is a fair value gap. And that's basically where you have, let's say a little space between 3 candles, right? Usually it's an engulfing candlestick in the middle, right? And it leaves that gap between the wicks. You want to look for stuff like that, because I kind of look at that as it's literally a magnet for the market. If you find like the higher time frame fair value gaps, a lot of the time the market's gonna pull into it. I just don't like higher time frame fair value gaps, just because it gets so, it's going down a rabbit hole. You don't know exactly where that turning point's gonna be, right? Where you're entering. But I do want to highlight, the fair value gap is there. Look at all this liquidity that's just resting above it. And that wick was a no-brainer that it was probably going to blow through that to sweep out that liquidity, right? Then to pull into that fair value gap. Now the market's efficient. That's what they like to call it, and it taps into that 1 minute demand, which is my entry model. Now I like to when I put my stop loss, I like to highlight both of them, just because if you have too tight of a stop loss, it gets very messy. So now I'm just using my fib. If you guys want my fib extensions, like the settings, just let me know in the comments. I don't mind, posting them. It's very simple, but this is just something I critiqued little by little over the years from my strategy. These are just different points, like just 4 TPs on here. But it all depends how you want to do it. Me, I like to kind of play it by ear, see how things are. I like to at least hit a 1 to 5 personally. That's where I at least like to hit. Now, around the second black line up there, if I'm hitting like 1 to 8 on there, that's enough for me to walk away. Here's the beautiful thing about this strategy. Yeah, I said 2 trades a week, yeah. But in reality, I usually am taking 2 to 3 trades a week, average, but I just felt it would be better to lowball it, 2 trades, right? And in reality, this setup happens almost every day. Literally almost every day it's set up. And sometimes it's not going to be perfect. Yeah, of course, that's a given. That's, known. However, you're going to see different versions of this setup. And once you've done it enough, it becomes second nature, right? So what is the end goal here? We're trying to figure out what makes sense for us to go ahead and move on. So I'm just highlighting, my previous student. He started a trucking business. I am so happy for him, right? Obviously, me and him had to really have a long conversation on how we're going to do it. But basically, right, we set up that plan that his expenses were about $5,000. He, 9 to 5, let's just say he made around $5,000, right? He was living paycheck to paycheck. Well, now, if you think about it, he had the income from his 9 to 5 and trading, right? That was making him $10,000 a month together, right? And now, if you really think about it, what is trading really? I hope everyone doesn't look at it as like, oh, that's, for me to just retire. You don't want to trade forever, right? So what am I showing you here? Basically, use trading as a tool to help you eventually start another business, right? Don't leave your 9 to 5. Don't leave it. Use it to pay the expenses with that. Use the money you're making from trading to reinvest into yourself, maybe to make more income from trading, or to reinvest into create another business. On his second attempt, that's exactly what he did. He doubled down on that. That's how you turn yourself into a powerhouse. Let's not forget, we do have a Powerhouse Traders program. Link is in my bio. If you need extra help, our Discord is free. Link is in my bio. Stay profitable.